a notorious outlaw and man-killer who ruled with an iron fist and ran one of the biggest moonshine operations in the United States. Prepare yourself for the true story of Alabama's Moonshine King, Beltree Smith. Our story begins in the 1880s in the mountains of Cherokee County, North Alabama. On the heels of the war between the states, the logging and the coal boom was well underway all over Appalachia, with northern industrialists and opportunists purchasing large tracts of lands and exploiting their resources to build America's cities. And company towns began to pop up all through the mountains nearly overnight as the railroad brought in workers by the thousands. And by 1888, the largest company town in northern Alabama was ran by the Bluffton Land, Ore and Furnace Company, which was mining large deposits of iron ore from the surrounding Indian Mountains. Now, this business was very prosperous, employing over 8,000 men from all over America who had come to seek their fortunes. Now, this was the golden age for outlaws looking to reinvent themselves. All one had to do was catch a train to one of these company towns where no one knew them, and just like that, they could leave any criminal past behind them and start anew. These were rough and tough men, ferociously independent and not afraid of hard work. And after working in those mines all day, you better believe there was a powerful thirst each evening for white or brown whiskey. So much so that most men would get so hammered from a night of alcohol and gambling and fist fighting after each payday that they wouldn't even show up for work again until they sobered up a few days later. And once they got their next paycheck, the cycle would repeat itself all over again. Now, this behavior presented a problem and a conflict of interest for the company owners, whose singular goal was to get as filthy rich as fast as possible. So they wasted no time changing state and local laws to make alcohol illegal anywhere their operations were located. They would simply slip a politician a backdoor bribe, and in return, a local ordinance would be created stating that the county was officially dry. Now, it's no secret that authentic mountain men have long embraced and exercised their God-given right to turn corn into white whiskey. And in northern Alabama, no man was more famous for distilling illicit Mountain Dew than William Anderson Smith, better known to the locals as Beltree Smith. You see, Beltree was a powerful man, both physically and politically. He was over 6 feet tall and muscular, a good-looking ladies' man with a quick smile and a terrible temper. He had inherited a huge tract of land that was over 30 square miles from his father, and he owned all of Indian Mountain, which bordered Alabama and Georgia. In fact, you might say that this area was his own country, where he wrote his own constitution and enforced his law through the Council of Gunpowder and Hot Lead. Indeed, Beltree ruled Cherokee County, Alabama, as well as Polk County, Georgia, like a feudal lord, since the state line ran right through the middle of his property, and any man who made the mistake of trespassing on his land or snooping around in his business would find themselves on the wrong end of a cold steel barrel where they were sure to be singing hymns with the angels before the sun set. Simply put, Beltree was a feared man, and it was best not to kick the bear. And many men had found out the hard way that Beltree would just soon beat a man senseless with his bare fist or the butt of his pistol any time that he felt a fella needed a little help getting his mind right. Now, some men are just born into this world to raise hell and womanize, and Beltree was one of them. He always had a revolving door of 2 or 3 women living with him, and what little time he wasn't spending taking care of the ladies, he was passing out bullets to any man who crossed him. Once, he had killed a man named Sam Chandler for not paying for a hog that he purchased on credit. Twice, he had killed men that he suspected had cheated him during a game of cards. And then there was the time he stabbed some poor soul for taking too long in the outhouse. Heck, even his family members weren't immune from his violence, since he once shot his younger brother for taking the last piece of cornbread. Worst of all, it wasn't that Beltree was a killer. It was the way he seemed to enjoy the killing. His signature move was to make a man get down on all fours and beg for their lives. Then the outlaw would simply shoot him, point blank in the head. Wagging tongues said that Beltree had murdered as many as 12 people, and he'd even been arrested for 4 of them. But he was acquitted each and every time, since the judges and the juries valued their own lives more than justice. Now, Beltree was also an opportunist who made his money by ignoring the law, sheltering wanted outlaws, and running a gambling house and selling charcoal for the nearby blast furnaces. However, this would all change in 1888 when 22 counties in Alabama and neighboring Georgia voted to make alcohol illegal. Seeing his opportunity to make a fortune, Beltree Smith was about to add distiller of illicit spirits to his resume. And what happens next would cement his status as one of the most brazen and notorious moonshiners in American history. Beltree built several stills all over Indian Mountain, near creeks and waterfalls, and immediately began producing some of the finest moonshine to ever come out of these hills. It beat it perfectly and was just as pure as the mountain springs it was born from. Those hidden stills worked as methodically as though they were licensed and regulated by the government, but no officers ever happened by it. And the reason was simple enough. No man in the country had the guts to trespass on the outlaw's land. Smith's method for selling his blockade liquor was so simple, it was genius. Indian Creek ran right through the heart of his land. And on one side of the creek, it was Alabama, and the other side was Georgia. There was a large water oak tree on the creek bank where Mr. Smith tied a cowbell around it. And there, he had also installed a wooden box with a notepad inside of it, nailed to the tree. Above it was a plank fastened to the tree with crudely spelled instructions to place your order here, where a customer would write how much booze they wanted, and he would leave his empty jug to be filled. And the sign said to pull the rope and ring the bell, and then immediately walk a quarter mile down the trail to the waiting spot. You'll know it when you see it, the instructions read. But whatever you do, don't ring that bell and stand here, or you'll be shot on the spot. Go to the waiting area and wait there for half an hour until you hear the bell ring again. And then come back. When a customer returned, their jug would be filled with some of the finest white mule they had ever tasted. And before long, the woods were echoing with the constant sound of a cowbell as folks made their way to the Beltree to place their order. plan worked to perfection, since the customer never saw who delivered the booze and the moonshiner never saw who bought the goods. Beltree Smith was a legend to his customers, and they loved him, but Beltree referred to his customers as witnesses, since any time the law would try to press charges on him, his customers would take the stand and testify in his defense. When Alabama law tried to shut his operation down, Beltree would simply move his operation to the other side of the creek in Georgia. And when the Georgia revenuers tried to raid him, he'd move back across the creek to Alabama. William Anderson Smith earned the nickname Beltree Smith for successfully running his moonshine operation in broad daylight for over 20 years in open defiance to the law. They simply couldn't stop him. Now, many folks in the community loved him for providing a valuable service, and he was charitable and gave his money away to help folks in need, and Beltree even paid the salary of the local Baptist preacher. But there were others who hated him. The mining companies, rival outlaws, as well as the law, wanted him dead. And twice they had sent revenuers to the Beltree, where they rang the bell and waited. And for that, they were greeted with a hailstorm of bullets and paid with their lives. Beltree Smith, a ladies' man with a terrible temper, had successfully ran his moonshine operation for over 20 years in open defiance to the law. And while many folks thought he was a hero, there were many that wanted him dead. Like all outlaws, Beltree had always vowed to go out in a blaze of glory with his boots on. And that moment finally came for him in 1908 when the receipts came due for an old crime that he had committed many years earlier. In the summer of 1908, Beltree attended an all-day singing down at the Baptist Church in Borden Springs, Alabama. The small church was packed with folks who had traveled from all the surrounding counties. The famous moonshiner was seated on the front pew, enjoying the service, and unbeknownst to him, there were two teenage brothers, Will and Dave Chandler, in the back of the church with an old score to settle with the outlaw. You see, Beltree had killed their father over a hog years ago, and now both boys were of age, and they were thirsty for revenge. After the services were over, the crowd poured out of the church when the brothers confronted Beltree in the yard. Without even blinking, Beltree pulled a revolver from his coat and started pistol whipping both boys. 19-year-old Dave was knocked senseless on his back when Beltree pointed his gun at 17-year-old Will. "Your pa stole that hog from me, and he had it coming," the outlaw said as he forced the teen down on all fours. "Boy, if you don't want me to blow your brains out in front of these fine church folks, you best start eating that grass like the hog your pa stole from me." Terrified, the teen began chewing the grass like an animal while begging for his life. Beltree leaned over and began poking at the boy's head with the barrel of his gun as he prepared to shoot him. But in that moment, he had forgotten about the boy's older brother, Dave, who had come to and picked up a large rock and delivered a crushing blow to the temple of the outlaw's head, causing him to stagger about, barely able to remain standing on his feet. And in the commotion, he had dropped his pistol, which now the younger brother Will had scooped up and promptly emptied every single bullet into Beltree's head, blowing his brains all over the grass and killing him graveyard dead. Beltree Smith's death made national news across the country, and even though both boys were arrested and pled guilty to first-degree murder, the governor of Alabama pardoned them both and thanked them for doing what the law never could, putting an end to to the most successful illegal moonshining operation in Alabama history. Nowadays, most folks have never even heard of Beltree Smith or his story. But that's what this channel is all about, preserving real history that's nearly been lost to time. Till next time, my friends, be sure to like and subscribe for more true stories on Appalachia's past.